my friends, my name is Lindsay. I run the blog Books for Christian Girls, and welcome back to the little corner of the internet where I talk mainly about Christian fiction. Today I have Christian fiction and clean fiction, and a lot of them both. I have 29 books to talk about, technically 30 because there's a DNF, but these are all the books I read in March, and I'm kind of rethinking the whole doing a whole month in one video. Because if I'm going to be reading this many books, which this was not normal, I had audiobooks, which definitely helped bump up my numbers. But if I'm going to be reading anywhere near this amount, I think I might need to split this up, like, first part of the month, second part of the month. For editing and, like, my brain-wise, it's way easier to do it just for, like, the whole month. But, man, this is a lot of books to talk about. It's pretty split evenly with Christian fiction and clean fiction. As always, we're going to talk about Christian fiction first. This is a lot of books. I'm kind of intimidated to talk about all these books. We have a whole stack right there of books I have physically we're going to talk about within this video as well. Not to mention the ones I haven't bought yet or the ones I'm not going to buy that I read on Kindle. We have a lot of books to talk about today. I'm stalling. Okay, we need to get on it. I just keep staring at this list and it's organized and I'm ready, but I feel like I need to have like a little checkbox or something so I can mark them off to make sure I've talked about everybody, because I feel like it's just ones are gonna get lost in this because there are so many of them to talk about. So as I put little bullet points in so I can check them off as I talk about them, just as a reminder, I organize these in Christian fiction and clean fiction. I do have one book in the Christian fiction that I feel like should be more really to the clean fiction side, but I'm putting it in the Christian fiction because it's published by Enclave, and their books kind of go either way. They're kind of that overlapping circle of Christian fiction and clean fiction. So we have that. I have a DNF in here, and then what else do I need to say? Oh, I'm going to organize these from lowest rating to highest rating in the genre roughly. Roughly being the keywords, because I've got a bunch of 2 stars in the clean fiction category. I say a bunch. It's only like 3, 4, 5, something like that. I guess that's a bunch. And they're kind of just all kind of even kill, if you will. So those aren't really ranked. And then I've got a series grouped together. And so you'll see. It's just, yeah, I'm trying not to be overwhelmed. This is a lot of books to talk about. I'm actually really excited though about this video because I have 2 4.5s. I've finished a series. I have read another 11 books off of my physical TBR. Who am I? Now, mind you, 4 of those I bought at the beginning of this month, knowing I was going to read them. So that's kind of that probably should count as like half points. But I asked y'all about that in another video, and y'all said that recent buys count. So thank you for justifying my madness. And so 11 books off my physical TBR is not bad at all. It doesn't feel like I've made a dent in my physical TBR, but it is what it is. Let's get started. Christian fiction. All of these reviews are linked in the description. Yeah, they're linked in the description. I'm gonna just get on with it. Oh, okay, book number 1, A Noble Friend by Kendra E. Ardnek. This is book, technically, I think 15 of the Cornerstone series. I've been talking about this series for the last few recent reads. I've finished the series now finally, so we'll talk about all the later ones in this video today. This one though, I did end up giving 2 stars. It is a Bluebeard retelling, and that's just not a retelling I like. So it was just a miss for me personally on that. Interesting enough with this book though was it's not in her POV at all, the main girl. She is like a wealthy kind of lady, like daughter of a wealthy man, let's put it that way. And then there's been this guy that she's grown up with, now is her guard, kind of treated him as a brother forever, and it's in his POV. And he's kind of obsessed with her. And he has no personality outside of her and loving her and now following her when she goes and gets married to Bluebeard. If you know the story of Bluebeard, it's gruesome. The man has potentially killed all of his prior wives. Is she next? That kind of thing. It's not a feel-good story. Thankfully, the author didn't go gruesome, but because I knew the original tale and how gruesome it was, I think that also affected like the visuals I was seeing when they discovered things about this man. And so it's just in this bodyguard guy's point of view, and it's not like he was like obsessive towards her, but that was his only personality trait, was loving her. And at one point it said that he had to take the day off because of his own business. And I was like, what business do you have besides following this girl around like a puppy? I was very confused by that. It was just a miss for me. It was just over 100 pages, so like, you know, you gotta work with what you got on there. But I don't know, I was nervous about this book for the Bluebeard element, but then also the fact that I knew the male lead is in love with his foster sister-like friend who's just gotten married to this other guy. And so like that's a sentence right there that we could unpack, and it's a lot to unpack. But it was really like the whole she's married to this other guy is what's gonna like what I want no cheating element. There was no cheating element, so I appreciated that. He was very like respectable and honorable towards her, and like not gonna act on his feelings for her now that she's married, or not that he even could prior because of the status difference. But yeah, I was nervous about this one, and it just ended up being a miss for me, which was unfortunate. I like it when the main guy is like, you know, head over heels for the main girl, but like this was literally his only personality trait at all, was her. And that's a little concerning to me. Another one in the Cornerstone series is A Noble Rescuer by K.R. Mattson. I gave this one like a 2.5, 3-star rating. It's kind of still wavering. I honestly, it's a Snow Crane retelling. And I think for me, it was just like, it was a little too, not gruesome, a little too violent for my taste maybe? But it wasn't even like detailed. It was more so of like what the main guy goes through. And it was, so the main guy is the huntsman or something like that for the Snow Queen. Snow Queen's evil. She's trying to have him track down her nephew that's ran off because he doesn't want anything to do with the crazy aunt. And so he tracks him down to this little village area, and our main girl is there. And she is like the town chief's daughter, and her father's ill or something, and so her brother has stepped up, and her brother is a psycho freak because he sees a man wearing the Snow Queen's colors and like kidnaps him, tortures him, like the things he goes through. And then I had some difficulties with this one. It was honestly probably more so a me thing because I can't stand any Viking nods, and that is definitely what I was getting. Maybe it was just like the cold weather element, but I was getting Viking nods because of her brother. And then towards the end, he kind of does like a 180, and he's all like happy-go-lucky buddy-buddy, and it was odd. It was kind of odd to me. I didn't really care for that one, which was really unfortunate. Great cover. Didn't love the inside, unfortunately. I'm sorry. Moving on, we have Break My Fall by Lynn H. Blackburn. This was a new release for Christian fiction. It is romantic suspense. The first book in the series was Never Fall Again, which I liked that one much better. I gave this one 4. I'm giving the new one 3. I don't know, there was different elements about the fourth one, and it was also just like so refreshing, and it wasn't heavy suspense. It was more on the romance, and like I liked a lot of elements of it. This one was definitely more on the suspense side. I liked it, but I feel like you definitely need to read them back to back because of the characters and the family dynamics, because you've got 3 big families and they're all somehow connected, but then some don't get along, and there's like, you know, rivalries in this small town in North Carolina, I think it was in one of the Carolinas. And there's a lot of elements with that, and so like going into this book, because it's been over a year basically since I've read the first one, I was a little confused at what was going on, and like, hang on a second, who are you, what how are y'all connected? And so I eventually, like, things re-jogged my memory, but there were still things that weren't explained that I think the author just assumed you would know from reading the first book. So like, just as a heads up, they are very connecting, even though it follows different characters that we met in the first book. So this one follows Meredith Quinn, who is a dentist. I give all my apologies and regards right now to dentists or family of dentists. That was not a positive in my brain. I don't do dentists. I don't do saliva and teeth and gums and no. So like those parts, I was like, it's kind of squirming like I had ants in my pants. I'm not going to lie, because I was just like, oh, no. And then we have, what's his name? Gray, and he is the police chief of the town. Now here's the thing. They have this town, and like, that's their town. But then the town over, corruption. drug trafficking, human trafficking, lots of plot problems. Nobody should go to that county. It's not is it a town, a county? I think it's a county. Wasn't it the next county? Oh, okay, the description doesn't tell me. I think it was like the next county over. And so like there's problems, okay? Big problems. And unfortunately, Meredith has now caught the eye of one of the big troublemakers over there. And so Gray has to protect her, of course, because that's what happens in these books. It was definitely more suspenseful than you see on my washi tape. This is the problem when I journal and I'm like, oh no, I don't want that washi tape anymore, but I can't waste it. I stick it to my laptop. It's not a bright idea because it's not pretty. Anyway, sorry. It is more suspenseful and like that, the romantic suspense elements, it's more on there. I do also just have to know, I probably will get a copy of this book. I need to see somebody who has a physical copy of this book and read the physical copy, because I had an advanced reader copy, digital copy. I needed to know in a conversation, did the main characters act like Meredith and one of her cousin's friends, I don't remember who it was, they kept talking about Chick-fil-A, but they kept doing it as CFA. I had to do a poll on my Instagram story for some friends because I was just like, I've never heard it called this, and it was kind of driving me a little crazy, I'm not gonna lie. I've never heard anyone abbreviate Chick-fil-A. No matter if you say it 20 times in the sentence, it is Chick-fil-A. So like that's like such a little thing to nitpick, but like it was driving me crazy because I'm on the internet. I know all the slang basically. Well, like, all the decent slang. But I was so confused. I was so confused by that. And let's see, what else could I say about this one? It is connected to the author's novella in the Cornered novella collection. This video is going off swimmingly already. This is great, Lindsay. So there is that. It totally gives away the ending for that one. I haven't read that one, so I didn't know, but like as a heads up on that. Oh yes, Gray. Gray has a heartbreaking past. Every woman he's loved has died tragically. And so he's, been walled off, doesn't want to fall in love, even though he likes Meredith, and even though Meredith has kind of been throwing herself at him. He's not gonna be interested in having a relationship with her because of that. And so typically when a main character is like, oh no, I can't be in a relationship, I'm like, yeah, right, you'll be fine by page 300. I actually was questioning with him for a while because he has gone through some traumatic stuff. And so there are some, I would say there are triggers if you are sensitive to super things, so like domestic violence, drive-by shootings, that kind of thing, but it wasn't the amount that I felt like it needs to have a trigger warning unless you are super sensitive to that. So like just as a heads up on that, I guess. There were things that Gray said that he's supposed to be like, the stoic police officer, the police chief, former military, I don't remember what branch, but one of the military branches, and then he says certain things to Meredith that I was just like, he's rivaling a Hallmark card. Like, this is interesting. He definitely had his lines where he sounded like he was written by a woman. So, it made me roll my eyes because that's the romantic part of this book. Yeah, mixed thoughts on this one overall. Will I continue the series? Yes, I think I will, mainly because I want to find out what's going on with Mo, one of the cousins, because like he's like Mr. Mysterious over there, and I want to know about that, but this one was kind of a bummer. I had decent hopes for it, but the first book was definitely better in my opinion. Okay, another one, and this is the one that I'm not quite sure. Christian fiction, clean fiction. There is some Christian faith content hinted here and there, but I wouldn't really say it was strong faith content by any stretch of the imagination. That is Truth Cursed by Angie Dickinson. I think this is the author's debut book. Let me look at that. I think that is it. It is my first book I've at least read by her. Yes, it is her first one according to Goodreads. I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. If there's one thing y'all should know about me, well, there's lots of things you should know about me, but in case you didn't know this extra little fun tidbit, I really like boarding school academy books, plot lines, all of that. I don't know. Was it all the Zoe 101 I watched? Was it the Barbie Princess Charm school influence? I don't know, but that is always one thing that if I hear a boarding school, especially in a fantasy setting, I'm just like, well, hello. I want to know more. And so as soon as I heard this was like a boarding school in a fantasy world that's kind of Regency inspired, but like they're training them to be spies, I was excited for this one. So I was very excited for those parts, and I did actually really like those parts, but speed ran, whatever is the proper grammar, through that plot line, and we go straight to her mission. So, like, if it was a movie, it would have been like a montage with like a cool song kind of thing, you know? We we went through so fast the part that I wanted to see, the boarding school and the learning and the spy learning stuff. We went through it. And I was bummed on that. I'm not gonna lie, so that's part of it. The big deal though with this book is that Credesia, maybe is how I pronounce her name. I don't know. It looks pretty. So basically, she was orphaned at a young age. Her parents were murdered, and she's been living with her aunts, and they are not great. And because of something they did, she's basically been cursed to never lie. And so she can't lie. You ask her how she's feeling, she's going to tell you. You ask her what happened to her parents, she's going to tell you they were murdered by an arrow. And so, you know, that makes first impressions a little awkward, to say the least. And so she gets sent to this boarding school, and it's supposed to be like kind of like a finishing school, but she ends up getting roped into being a spy for the headmaster, trying to figure out, is the king guy, the royal family, are they involved with the random murders that have been happening to, like, government officials like her family was. And so that is where we have a speed run of the part I really liked of the boarding school academy learning to be a spy. And then the last half of the book, more than the last half of the book, is more about the mission and trying to worm their way into the castle because of like not a bridal competition. What's the word I'm looking for? A princess competition kind of thing, where they're trying to find the wife for the crown prince, that kind of thing. I still like that plot line. I've read it so many times in the last year, but I still really like that plot line. And so they're trying to figure things out, and things happen, and yada yada. You know how that goes. That's what a book does. Great potential for this book. For me, it was a 3.5, which is not a bad rating. That is in between I liked it and I really liked it. I don't think that's a bad rating. There were things here and there, like I wish we would have had more of this and maybe less of this. And I think for me though, personally, this book would have been better as a duology. Like, let's have more of the spy training and everything, and then start with the mission, and then something dramatic happens, cliffhanger, next book picks up and we have the rest. It felt very jammed packed and kind of rushed for a one book that's like 300 pages, which was a bummer. I think those that are like avid YA fans just eat up YA books and like fantasy elements and all that. I think you would probably still like this one. I just found the execution of certain things to be a little lackluster, and so that affected my rating, unfortunately. But again, a 3.5 star is not a bad rating for me. I know some are like, that's average, but no, to me 3.5 is in between. I liked it and I really liked it. I was really bummed that like we ran through the boarding school plotline, and then just the last half of the book just kind of fell flat for me, which was a bummer. Okay, we have 2 middle grade books, and so the first one is going to be Road Trip Return by Becca Wierwille. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce names. We know this. I gave this one 3.5 stars. This is the second book in the Road Trip Rescue series. Book 1 was Road Trip Rescue. Very cute. Enjoyed a lot of elements of this one. Definitely would suggest reading them in order though, because it totally talks about prior events in the first book. But this one follows a boy we meet in the first book. The first book follows Kimmy. She's on a road trip to try to rescue her lost dog, and she meets Mateo and Daniel is the star of this one. He is about her age, and certain things happened in the first book where now Daniel is way more involved in Kimmy's life, and they end up having to go to Guatemala with their families to find someone, and that's all I'm really going to say because of spoilers, and it's definitely connecting to the first book, which is interesting now that I think about it. Most books that have different main characters, you can talk about it, but this one I don't think I can, because it would definitely spoil things from the first book. I liked a lot of different elements of this one. I really felt for the main guy, Daniel, the main boy. He's about 12 years old. And there's a lot of changes on the horizon for him, and he's not happy about that and is kind of trying to sabotage that So him and his brother, it can just still be them. It's always been them. He wants it to stay them, just the two of them. And he makes some poor choices and bad decisions, but lessons are learned because it's a middle grade book. I ended up liking this one, 3.5 stars. I'm looking forward to reading the third book here in April. And then I read the third book in the Tree Street Kids series by Amanda Cleary Eastep, and that was Lions to the Rescue. This was cute. This was really cute. I gave this one 3 stars as well. I don't have a physical copy of this one yet, but I do plan to get it. This one is set in 1995, I think, and it's still following Jack and his suburban neighborhood group of him and his friends and his younger sister Midge. B. What is her name? No, Midge. Okay, B is from the Inkwell Chronicles. I just had a brain blip. Jack and Midge. Midge is delightful. If you know the Arthur series, DW, she's like her, but less sassy and sarcastic, and can still be respectful. DW was a brat, but like a sarcastic brat. So, my generation note on that. But anyway, Midge is great. Love Midge. And so Jack is going to try out for his new school's football team, and he's really excited about it, and he's trying to get his new best friend to join in as well. Here's the thing with Ellison though, is he is an avid reader. Love him for that. And so he's more of like the nerd type, and so he's not really sure about that, but they strike a deal that he'll try out with Jack for football if Jack will join the library book club. And so they do that, and they even start like a little Lindy library bookmobile around their neighborhood. Very cute, very delightful. This has just been a fun series so far. I am definitely looking forward to reading the next book, and then I think the 5th book is coming out in August? Or is it the 6th book's coming out in August? I don't remember. I honestly don't remember, but I just know I'm going to be continuing on with the series and getting physical copies because it just has such a riding your bike around in the summer middle school charm to it, and it's like it's nostalgic for me because of that. So I'm enjoying this series. So another book would be in the Cornerstone series, and that is A Noble Life by C.K. Heartwing. You can keep in mind though, you can read these books in order, out of order, not read all of them, just read some of them. They are not connecting. It's totally fine to do that. And so this is technically book 14, but again, don't have to read them in order. This is a Snow White and Rose Red retelling. Rose Red, yes. I am constantly saying Red Rose, because that just makes so much more sense in my brain. Rose Red makes no grammatical sense, but it is what it is. And I have read a couple retellings of that before in the clean fiction market, and I've not been impressed. Like, it's okay. It's not a selling point to me, though. And so I was, like, kind of, like, I'm going to read it because I wanted to read this whole series. They're Christian fiction fairy tale retellings, non-magical. I want to read and review them. This one, though, I was like, okay, I'm going to read it regardless, but I wasn't enticed by that. But I ended up really enjoying this one. I gave it 3.5 stars. There was a few little plot things at the end that I was confused about that I'm not quite sure if I understood right or if it was a plot hole. I'm not quite sure about that. But basically our main girl is Rosalind and her older sister named Blanche, appropriate for the title of the retelling, and they live in a little cottage in the woods with her mother. Her father has recently passed away. And then also, though, what has happened in this kingdom is the main guy is Frederick, and he is the second prince. His father was just assassinated, so his older brother, the crown prince, goes off to go find the assassins. I feel for the advisors of their kingdom, because, like, I'd be stressed. Like, what do you mean the crown prince just ran? Our king just was killed and the crown prince just ran off. And now there goes the spare running off to go find the crown prince. I'd be stressed. I was honestly stressed for the advisors, and they aren't even really mentioned in this book. There's my personality in a nutshell. But, so he goes off trying to find his crown prince older brother, and then he stumbles upon them. He gets hurt. They have to help him. That kind of thing. It was cute. It was cute. I enjoyed this one. I thought the pacing was well done. I would have liked it, like I've said for many books in this series, a little bit longer just to have maybe a more fleshed out ending. Overall, though, I did like this one. I would put it in my top 10 of the series, I think. Pretty sure. I feel like I've had like maybe 8 that I've really enjoyed from this series thus far, and I would put that one in that order somewhere. Next, we have a cozy mystery, and that is A Little Bird Told Me by Laura Bradford. This is Mysteries of the Cobble Hill Farm, Book 6. So far, I think you can read them out of order. It doesn't really matter. I always suggest reading them at the beginning just because the beginning is, you know, the beginning. That's kind of, you know, it's in the name, beginning. But anyway, this is still following Harriet, the whole series about Harriet, who has inherited her grandfather's veterinary clinic in Yorkshire, England. And so this one, let's see, a cat goes missing, but then it turns out she was stolen. And then there's a parrot that is plucking her feathers. It's his ferret. I don't remember if it was a boy or a girl parrot. But like different things are happening there. And there's a missing painting then. There's a lot of suspicion. It's just fun. It's cozy mysteries. Easy 4 stars. No romance. Really, there is a possible future romance that could happen in the later books in the series, but currently there is none, which I have been appreciating. They're just fun, cozy. They're on Kindle Unlimited. I've been enjoying this series. I actually wasn't quite sure who the culprit was of this book while I was reading it until closer to the end, which I thought that was pretty good because I usually guess who the mystery culprit is or the killer is in a suspense book. So I was excited that there was one where I was like, oh, I'm not sure how this is going to go. And this was actually fun. With this book, I finished it one morning, and then my mom woke up, and I had to do her, like, a diagram of, like, what all happened in this book, and, like, all the characters and all the suspects, and, like, tell her and try to see if she could figure it out. And she was just invested. She was like, oh, just tell me, Lindsay, it's fine. But it was very fun to do that. I felt like one of the, like, the Hallmark movies and mysteries main girls were at their whiteboard, but I just had, like, a piece of paper and a Sharpie. But that was fun. That was fun. Did enjoy doing that. My other book, I think, is the last cornerstone book I will be talking about. Yes, it is. This is the last book of the series, so that's very appropriate. And that is A Noble Comfort by Katja H. I don't know how to pronounce the author's last name. And full disclaimer, this author has become a dear, sweet book friend of mine. And so I've never read any of her books before. And I was excited to read this one, but also like a little nervous, you know, because, you know, it's a book friend. What if I don't like it? Or something happens. But I ended up actually really enjoying this book, and that was very exciting. I really liked the strong faith content in it. This is actually a Bluebird retelling, which I'm not familiar with at all. So I'm not really sure how close it was on like the retelling element, but I did really like this one because it had the most faith content, I would say, out of all 16 books in the series. And it became very personal for the main girl. I'm trying to think, how should I say her name? Thalassa? Thalassa maybe is how we say it. I am not sure. But we're really seeing her try to trust the Lord with depression over circumstances that she has no control over. So kind of in the way of like a lot of other girls have gotten married but she hasn't yet, and like, you know, her appearance as well, which I don't typically enjoy when a book talks about the main girl's physical appearance a lot. But this book was different because it really didn't, but you could tell that was an insecurity of hers and that she has been trying to give it to the Lord and focus on what the Lord says about her. And I just really loved how beautifully done it was, and it was very sweet, very lovely. I really liked the faith content, and there's not really a romance in this book either, which was nice. It just really had that message of trusting God no matter what you're going through anxiety or depression or anything like that. And I just loved how that was done because that was the main part of the plot, and I liked that a lot. Our main girl, though, Thalassa, maybe is how we say her name, is the lady in waiting to a crown princess. And so she's been given all of the, kind of, you know, all the benefits of that position of kind of being treated like a mini princess herself, if you will. And so that was just also a really neat element. I haven't read a lot of books where I feel like the lady's maid is the main character and the princess or whoever, like, you know, her higher-ups isn't awful. The main girl in this wasn't awful. Well, the main girl's friend, the princess, wasn't awful. And so that was also just really refreshing. I really liked this one, so I bought a copy of it. Okay, I do not have this next book yet, but I do plan to get that. And that is Hope's Enduring Echo by Kim Vogel Sawyer. Confession time, I actually wasn't very excited about this book because of, it's got the dinosaur hunting, what's the word, paleontology? Is that how we say it? I have no idea. You know what I mean, don't you? And I've seen that a lot. Not a lot, but like more than I expect in Christian fiction in recent years. So when I found out it was about that, I was kind of like, oh, well, that's kind of a bummer for me. But, my dear friends, Kim Vogel Sawyer writes such a good book with the faith content, and now I haven't read all of her books, but a lot of the ones I've read, the faith content has just been top notch, and the romance is just so sweet and healthy and safe for teens to read because it's not focused on outward appearance, and it is very like focusing on what the Bible says, and there's usually a parent that is a great guiding mentor to their children, and that's just so refreshing to see. Anyway, but this book caught me by surprise by how much I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, very solid 4 stars. So it follows our main girl, Jenny, and this is set in Colorado in 1915, and her father has always been a, I can't think of the term they use, but basically like all the pipes to get water to a town, he walks those pipes like 5 days a week, and then he broke his leg, so he hasn't been able to do it, and so she's been taking on that job for the last couple of years. And so our main guy is Leo, and he is a college student. Main girl's 17. Leo's a college student. I would like to note on that though, because of that age gap and like all of that, this historical time period, that little gap did not personally bother me, but you also do not really have any romance or acting on romantic feelings until she is a bit older. So I appreciate that. Just as a note, I go into that in my review. But Leo is a college student. He is coming to this small town in Colorado because he's heard stories and rumors and that kind of thing about there potentially being dinosaur bones and fossils and all of that kind of thing. And so he ends up, you know, hanging around and hires her as his guide to maybe find that. And what really made this book stand out to me though was the emphasis on creation science. Back in like junior high school, creation science was my favorite subject to learn about. My mom and I would go to a bunch of different lectures and studies and that kind of thing on that topic, and so it's still a topic I find interesting. And this book just reminded me so much of things I learned then, and it was just really refreshing to have such a strong emphasis on creation biblical science and trying to debunk the evolution theory. I liked that a lot. That definitely made this book stand out to me. I will definitely be getting a physical copy because of it. So we have that element, but then also with Leo is he feels like he's been called to make a discovery that will back the Bible, creation science, and debunk the evolution theory that is being taught in colleges. And number one, I just really like that. Go Leo, go. But there is also some problems with that in his family because his father is a pastor and all the men prior to his father have been pastors in their family. Grandfather, great-grandfather, and so on, you know. And so Leo is the first one to not do that. And so it's caused a strain on him and his father's relationship as well. But Leo encourages Jenny, our main girl, so much to hold on to hope about her father's healing and not let bitterness take over. And there was just something about how it was done. It was so beautifully done. The strong faith content, and then we also get Jenny's mom's POV, Etta. We get her POV, and she's the caretaker for her husband. And there was just so many elements to that, but it was also so nice to see a parent figure in a book be such an important part of their grown child's life with Jenny and Etta's relationship, and just the encouragement, talking, and it just felt so healthy and so right, really. It just felt how it should be, and I loved a lot of different elements of that one. I would definitely say it would be safe for teen girls to read, and I've got the content listed, of course, in my review to check that out, because I definitely recommend you always check that out. We do have mentions, though, of potential mental illnesses and that kind of thing because of what Jenny's father has gone through, and he's kind of just, like, been a changed man ever since he broke his leg 2 years prior. And it's taken a massive toll on him, but also their family. So there is that element. Very clean though, very clean romance-wise. There really isn't a romance, and there are no acting of the feelings because of certain things that happen. And I'm trying to be vague for spoilers, but it was really good. I really, really liked this one. I feel like I'm rambling about this and I'm so sorry, but basically it made me want to cry at like 16 different parts. So there is that. It kind of felt like a YA historical novel in a way too, because of the main girl being 17. And there was just a lot of elements I really liked about it. The strong faith content, the creation science. It was really good. It's not debunking The Librarian of Boone's Hollow by this author. Still adore that book. But Leo is giving Emmett a run for his money. And I feel like that is something right there, because Emmett was a doll. Leo is also a doll though. So it was just really nice. The faith content and just the message of holding on to hope and letting go of bitterness, not letting bitterness take over. It was really good. Really, really good. Solid 4 stars. I will definitely be getting a copy of it. And then I wanted a book at one point that would just make me laugh and smile and just have a great time. And I knew Erynn Mangum's new book was coming out, so I didn't really want to reread an Erynn Mangum book, or elsewise I would have. Because, hello, Erynn Mangum, which we're going to be talking about her new book in like 2 books. Just give me a minute, we're getting there. But I decided to reread a Jen Turano one. And one that will always make me laugh when I go through like the quotes I've saved from it is After a Fashion. So I reread this one. This is book 1 in a series where the series name is not on the cover or the spine. What crime is that? It's not here either. Okay, well, Goodreads tells me it's a class of their own. I don't know why it's not on here. I actually, though, did tab up my copy because, y'all, I was snorting. I was laughing so hard. I shouldn't admit that. That's unladylike. I'm aware. But this is just so humorous because we have Harriet, and she dreams of the day she can open up a store where like she sells kind of refashioned clothing for women like her that are kind of just on their own and having to make their way through the world and earn their living. And that kind of gets derailed in a way when she gets involved with Oliver, and Oliver is rich, like rich, and he needs a fiance. So you have the fake dating, fake fiance trope. We know I love that one, and yeah, that's probably a big reason why this book just makes me laugh so hard. And he is kind of Oliver's a mess, and like he's a mess and he doesn't even know it, in the sense of like the humor and things he says. It's just like you should have thought that through. And Harriet, like, Harriet deals with him, and he's I don't know. I still just laugh. Like, just flipping through this, just looking at the parts I've tabbed, I just laugh and laugh. It's hard for me to say, like, what series is my favorite by Jen Turano, but I can tell you favorite books, this is in the top 5, probably. I want to reread the rest of the series. I did really, really like this last series by her, and I'm so excited for the new series starting. But this one has like such a fun vibe to it because of the fake dating, the being his fake fiance, and then just their banter is just great. One of my favorite banters for Christian fiction, I would say. That's definitely in the top 5. Looking around, yeah, this is definitely in the top 5 for favorite banter. The wit, the sarcasm, it's great. So much fun. So still 4 stars. If I could, I would say like 4.25. There was like just a little couple things here and there that made it not quite a 4.5 for me, but very close, very close. All right, and now the book we are all so excited for. Let me grab it. So, Leap Day in the Square by Erynn Mangum. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I read this one yesterday on its release day, and now I have the torturous wait for book 2 in the series, because it's a series. Okay, the voice I just made was not normal. I'm so sorry, but I am very excited. Like, I love Erynn Mangum's books, and I'm so excited for all these standalones we've been getting, but getting a series is so exciting because that means there's more. I know there's more coming, and so that's very exciting for me. So this one, though, is Leap Day in the Square, and it follows Lucy, and Lucy is 28 years old, lives in North Texas, in her hometown. And one thing she has, actually there's 2 rules. not really rules, goals. Let's say goals. Lucy has 2 goals, and one of them is to have a cotton candy truck and be able to have it in her town's leap day fair, leap day parade thingamajig that they have every year. Even when it's not a leap year, they still celebrate it because, you know, that's when the town was founded and, you know, history and all that. So that's goal number 1, have a cotton candy truck. Goal number 2, avoid at all costs Ben Wilson. And we know where that's going to go. So Ben Wilson is, what can I say? I'm trying to think how I can say this. So Ben messed up. Ben messed up bad. Here's the thing though. When it comes to the trope about like we've been holding on to this misunderstanding grudge for 10 years since high school and now we're petty towards each other, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. They're being petty and just, it's annoying. It should be noted though that when a favorite author does it, I can potentially like it. But the big world difference here with this book was they were not petty to each other. They're just trying to avoid each other. They are not being petty, and that makes a huge difference to me. It also should be noted, though, that Lucy is going to, well, okay, let's say, Lucy is being dragged by one of her oldest sisters. She has 3 older sisters. It sounds like the rest of the books are going to be their stories, and I'm so excited. I needed them, like, yesterday as soon as I finished, personally, but she has 3 older sisters, and one of her older sisters is dragging her to a Bible study. And what is that Bible study about? The Lord has a sense of humor, forgiveness. And who shows up at that Bible study? Yes, Ben Wilson. The rule number 2, or goal number 2, stay away from. Gets worse. Who is the health inspector that's got to pass her cotton candy truck? Yes. It was great. It was great. I have to say, like, at first I was like, I don't like this Ben guy. I'm with her sisters. Let's, like, bury him in their family's backyard kind of thing. Like, did not care for him. But conversations, faith growing, faith moments, strong faith content, humor. It was great. It should be noted with an Erynn Mangum book, I already have really high expectations because she's one of my favorite authors for a reason. But the faith content in this book, so Lucy goes to the Bible study like 4 or 5 times, and then we're also getting what they're learning in the Bible study. It is so strong in the faith content. I felt like I was there in the classroom with them, just nodding my head, taking notes. It was fantastic. I love it when a book does that. And it just worked so well. It worked so well. It was such an important part of the book and also an important part of her growth. And things happening and confessions and so many different like discussions and talks. And it was just great. It ends on kind of a cliffhanger though. And I just, ooh, that's a nice sound. Anyway though, it ends on a cliffhanger. It ends on a cliffhanger. And I am sad. So the next book is going to be one of her sisters, and it's Flag Day in the Square coming this summer. And I know for a fact that Flag Day is June 4th. So I'm going to be hopefully naive and beyond hope, that that's going to be about the time the next book's coming out. That's what I'm going to hope. It was really good though. If you have not read Erynn Mangum, hi, my name is Lindsay. I'm not on her payroll, but I don't want to be on her payroll. I just want to be on the PR team. Let me talk about her books free of charge. I enjoy her books so much. This was an excellent next one, and it was so much fun. I don't even eat candy, but I liked it. So, like, you know, there's that. So good. So good. Like, look how cute the cover is, too. It's so colorful, and I just, it's so good. So good. I just talked about this one in, was it my last video, I think it was? The I Love Spring book tag. I talked about how excited I was for this book, and this Lindsay would like to report, yes, it was great. Such a good rom-com with strong faith content. No one does it like Erynn Mangum, in my opinion. Just, the strong faith content. I felt like I was in the Bible study with them, and then just like different parts. I can't wait. I cannot wait to tab my copy, which I probably, if I have time after I film this video before I have to get dinner going, I will tab my copy today, because just flipping through like my Kindle highlights, I had like 60 plus ones I feel like I'm going to want to mark. So very much excited to do that. But it was really good. So much fun. If you haven't read an Erynn Mangum book, Is it my favorite by her? Probably not, but honestly, when you have so many fantastic top contenders, it's hard to rank them. It really, truly is hard to rank them. Really, really enjoyed this one, though. So much fun. Strong faith content, sarcasm, wit, humor. Also, just the family aspect with Lucy and her 3 older sisters. So much fun. I was laughing so hard at them, and just like the sarcasm and wit and humor throughout the book, and then just like adoring the faith content as well. It was great. It was really good. So that is the end of the Christian fiction. Moving on to clean fiction, I want to try to do these faster. I'm so sorry. I feel like I've been talking like crazy. I'm already kind of exhausted. In all reality, I'm kind of exhausted. So let's move on into clean fiction, and I'm going to try to keep these maybe a bit shorter. Keywords being maybe. So my DNF is unfortunately The Art of Love and Lies by Rebecca Anderson. I read another book by this author. It had to do with orchids in the title, but there were barely any orchids in the book. I can't remember the title. That one. Talked about that one in a prior recent reads. I didn't care for the romance and how that was, and this book was shaping up to be very much in that similar vein, and our main girl is a copy artist, but that's a fancy name for forger, in my opinion, and she didn't see anything wrong with that. It's set in 1857, so not really Regency, but in between that Regency and Victorian age, I suppose. And I don't know, I listened to the audiobook while I was pulling weeds, and when you're pulling weeds, you need something really engaging and fun, because pulling weeds is not engaging or fun. And this book just did not do it. It did not do it. I think I got about 50 pages in. I already was not a fan of certain elements, and I put a little bit about the content in what I read. I think I read about 40-something pages, 40 or 50. And I just decided to DNF it because I didn't want to deal with what I thought was going to come up content-wise, and the romance was leaning the same way as the prior book. The main guy also had really like flirtatious comments that he wanted to say to her, but he didn't. But I'm hearing it in my earbud, and it is 80 degrees. I'm getting a shiver of dread that go down my back because of certain things. Like, he wanted to call her an angel. And then what was the other one? Oh, she said a painting in the museum was a delight to the eyes, and he wanted to say she was a delight to the eyes. I can't. Yeah, so no, didn't finish that one. We'll be unhauling it. Okay, unfortunately, I have a 1.5, and I'm still, like, honestly, it probably is closer to a 1. Unfortunately, and that would be Pumpkin Wars by Kendra E. Ardnek. I'm thinking this author may not be for me, and that's going to be a bummer because I thought maybe I had another Fairytale author retelling, a Fairytale reauthor to talk about or to read, and unfortunately it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. There was light faith content, but there also was a fade to black scene, so like just as a heads up about that for readers who don't care for that. I don't think I've ever had a Cinderella character that I didn't like before, and the main girl in this one was bratty and manipulative, but it was because that's how she was kind of treated and raised herself, so that made sense, but I really didn't like her. She was a pain, and I don't even honestly remember what else this book was about. It has to do with like fairies and elves and the illusions and things like that, and she kind of manipulates and tricks the prince into marrying her because she was the princess of the other country that is gonna like come in and invade them. It was something about that regarding. I just unfortunately didn't care for this one. I honestly don't want to talk about this one anymore. There were different elements I just did not care for and how things happened, and so we're just moving on. The next one would be The Baker and the Wolf by J.M. Stengl. So sorry. I gave this one 2 stars. This is part of the multi-authored series of Villains Ever After. And so it has to do with like the Big Bad Wolf and Little Red Riding Hood. And it's like from the villain's perspective. And it's typically like the villain is the victim, if you will. And so the main girl is kind of boy crazy in a way. And so when the guy came, the content problems in my opinion, and there was just like a lot of emotions and feelings and the romance side of things, even though like the kisses weren't crazy detailed. they just, yeah, it was interesting. And then I just didn't really understand all the magic stuff. I don't really care for like the shape-shifting romances in that regard too. So 2 stars. Next book. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Before Beauty by Brittany Fichter. Is that how we say it? I'm not sure. I am really bummed I only gave this one 2 stars. I had really high hopes for it. But our main couple kind of drove me a little crazy. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. But I just didn't connect to them. I didn't like them for some reason. Let's put it, okay. Basically what happened was at one point our main girl goes up to the Crown Prince when they're little, and he isn't supposed to hang around peasants or anyone that's like, you know, not of a high status according to his father, the king, because they look down on them. Great king, I know. And so when he sees the father is like disapprovingly looking at him, he pushes her and she falls in the front of a horse, and her ankle or leg or arm, something happens, and she ends up being crippled for the rest of her life. I don't know if that's the proper term, and I do not mean any offense by saying that word. That is, I'm pretty sure, the word they used in this book, so that's what I'm going to use it as well. And so she's become kind of bitter towards him. He is bitter towards everything. And then when he becomes king, his first ruling when he's drunk as a skunk that gets proclaimed is to get rid of all the people that are lesser in their kingdom, and like, so like that would include her. And so different things happen, but he ends up cursed, and so he's basically trapped in the castle. Things happen, Beauty and the Beast elements, she has to go there, and yeah, things happen. There were so many different things. I was very confused about the magic system for the large majority of the book, and things weren't really explained until like the 50% mark, which I needed more explanation. I don't know. The next 2 books in the series are about them, and I didn't really care for them, so I'm leaning towards not reading those and just skipping to the 4th book, would it be? Because that's the one I'm interested in. I've heard good things about the 4th book. It's a Cinderella retelling. I like Cinderella retellings, usually. I don't know. This one was a bummer. There was threads of a Christian allegory throughout this book, but they didn't really make sense to me. So, unfortunately, yeah, this one was a mess, which was a bummer. Speaking of Cinderella stories I should have liked, but I ended up not really enjoying, we have A Midnight Hope by Stefanie Lozinski, perhaps is how I pronounce this author's name. I also gave this one 2 stars. It is a clean fiction book, but there is some faith content, a bit of magic. There is also animal abuse done, though, by the villains, so as a heads up for that. Okay, so let's see. This book did have some faith content, but the part I really didn't like about the faith content is a spoiler. And I put that in my review. It's under the spoiler thing, so you can read it if you would like. It didn't make sense to me. I didn't care for how the end went in certain discussions in that regard. I did like the different twists of this Cinderella story, though, compared to the classic Cinderella story. So like our main girl, it's not her stepmother and stepsisters. She is a servant to a wealthy man who's got a teen daughter that she helps takes care of, basically. And so there's that element. Her father is still alive. And instead of like a big midnight ball masquerade, there is a midnight steeplechase, horse chase, you know, like races with horses. And so she wants to be able to compete, to be able to basically buy out her servant. What is that called? When they, you know, buy back their debts, basically that kind of thing. And so that's her goal, but she meets the crown prince who is having to hide because in this kingdom, beauty, your physical appearance is like the most important thing. So like if you have any disfigurement or anything, you are bottom of the tier. And so he wears a mask because of something that happens, and he's never really been seen in public, it sounds like, from my understanding. And so he's able to compete in the chase, and of course things happen and a little bit of a romance. I should have liked this one, but honestly it was the ending and how the faith content entered in, and because it was the actual names for like God, heaven, had it been a fantasy fictional name, I don't think it would have bothered me as much. But because we're using God in heaven, I didn't care for how it went. I don't know. It was interesting. There was a lot of things that were revealed right at the end. Like things I was wondering and curious about the whole book, and then it's revealed right at the end. And I don't know. I didn't care for that because I was kept in the dark for too long, and I'll fuss about that in any book. So, you know, there's that. Unfortunately, I didn't like that one. That was a bummer. Okay, then we have Identity by Camille Peters, 2.5 stars. This was the first book I actually read in March, and I don't remember really anything about it. It was a Goose Girl retelling. The main girl is like the lady's maid, servant, maid, I don't remember what the title was, to the very bratty, snotty-nosed, hoity-toity princess. Hoity-toity, snotty-nosed princess is engaged to this guy. They hate each other's guts. So little Miss Snotty Nose over here has the brilliant idea that she's going to make her maid that looks a lot like her switch places. And so bada bing bada boom, little magical ring enchantment casted, and our main girl is now getting married to the man that basically hates her but doesn't know that it's not the girl he thinks she is. Wait, did that make grammatical sense? Anyway, you know what I mean, right? And so there's that. It had good points, but I found him to be exhausting because he felt like a little boy. And at one point, my dear friends, the man is stacking his toast in the shape of a building at breakfast. He is now the crown prince. His brother unfortunately passed away, so he's now the crown prince, and the man is still stacking his toast. And then he takes all the dishes and stacks them into a big tower after he's done eating. The country's doomed. The country's doomed. That's all I say. Long live the current king. Let's just put it that way. Here's the thing, my friends. She's got this magical ring that's like keeping her from telling the truth. And if she tells the truth, pain. Like bad, instant pain. If she tries to like do any nods to it, she can't because of the pain. And so my brain, this is bad, my brain goes, cut off the finger. That's probably morbid, but you know, it's an idea. Not necessarily a good idea, but I feel like you want out of this so much. But then she starts falling for him, and like they start being kinder to each other. And yeah. The main girl also loves bugs. And like I can get behind like butterflies and bumblebees and like, you know, hummingbirds. But no, this girl loves bugs. So just as a heads up, if you don't like bugs, you might just skip it. Just skip it. There was a lot of bugs. I was just like, no. No. And they kissed a lot. They kissed a lot. So honestly, I was going to give it a 3. But they kissed a lot. So I bumped it down. And even though, like, they were married, technically, yeah, they were married, they were longing for each other and more, and I was like, okay, no more, thank you. I felt like I was intruding on their honeymoon. Let's put it that way. And that's an awkward feeling, okay? That's awkward. So, 2.5 stars. I'm not doing well with this series, y'all, so if you have read Camille Peters, I need to know what is your favorite books by her, because the 4 I've read, I have not given higher than 3 stars, I think. So, gonna need y'all's help with this because I'm kind of bummed if I've just crossed off another fairy tale retelling author. Okay, switching from the fairy tale genre for a minute, we have Dual Devotions by Sarah L. McConaughey. Maybe is how I pronounce the author's name. You know me, I don't know. And so this isn't, is this Regency? Was this Regency? That's a good question. No, it's past Regency. So I don't remember what time period this is supposed to be. 1850. So we have our main girl, and her name just went out of my brain. What is her name? Charlotte. And Charlotte, so she's got an older brother, and her older brother's best friend is Alex. They've all kind of played together. They're all around the same age. And then the news breaks that the friend's parents, Alex's parents, Alex? Yes, Alex has been sent to debtor's prison, and so he's at 14 has now got to like go work in a coal mine basically. And so she hasn't seen him forever, but that was like such a massive part of their childhood that like her brother became kind of terrible and even more terrible. And then it's been many years since then, and her brother's just is terrible, as you would expect. And it gets even worse when Alex comes back and like he's made a name for himself. He's grown up, he's, you know, got a respectable job, and he wants to kind of connect back with them because of different reasons. More business reasons than personal reasons, but you know, if he can do both, that's fine. But man, her brother just flips a lid, and it's ugly. And so, of course, forbidden love trope right here, where Alex and Charlotte, of course, fall in love. And she's very, like, you know, torn because she wants to obey her brother, who is in charge of their family while their parents are overseas, I think, in India. And yet she also really likes Alex. So I was expecting a lot more angst, but there really wasn't as much angst as I was expecting for the majority of this book. Interesting enough, though, there was faith content, but it was kind of more of the faith content that you see in Christian fiction from like 10, 15 years ago, where one has a faith, one does not have a faith, but enter terrible events. Oh, person who doesn't have a faith now has a faith. We can be a couple now. It's all hunky-dory, equally yoked. Well, prior, though, there was no concern about the other person not being a believer. I made notes on that in my review on Goodreads. I might have did a slight rant on that because I'm tired of seeing that, and I haven't seen that in a while. So, yeah, it was kind of like the savior dating trope in a way, because Alex still loves Charlotte, even though, like, she's not happy with God and doesn't have a relationship with God. What else can I say about this book? There was the positive that there wasn't a heavily physical attraction notice. That was nice. That was nice. They think the other is, like, handsome or beautiful, but they're not overly noticing or admiring the other one's physical appearances, and there's not, like, sexual tension either, so I appreciated that. There is a lot of, like, angst there right at the end, and her brother's horrible. So, like, yeah, there you go. 3 stars. My main complaint would be that it felt too slow. It got decent about 50%, but then that's dashed to pieces when the main girl decides she's going to be a noble idiot. And I only have happiness for like 15%, and then the rest is angst. So yeah, 3 stars. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. Would I suggest you go out of your way to read it? No. No. So, 3 stars. I'm probably not going to keep it. I don't know. I keep going back and forth. Like, 3 stars is kind of like, it's on the fence, it's in the gray area, whatever term you want to use. I'm not quite sure. I don't think I'm going to keep it. Her brother was a piece of work. It was, Going back to the fairy tale retelling category, we have True Princess by Kayla Eshba. Eshba? I don't know how to pronounce the author's name, I'm sorry. 3.5 stars, fairy tale retelling. I don't remember what this book was about. A Princess and the Pea retelling? Yeah? Yeah, it was that. What else? Oh, okay, that's right. Okay, so basically in this land, there was a war between the non-magical creatures like humans and then the magical creatures like the guardian people and dragons. And so because of the humans trying to kill the dragons, I don't remember what the term was. I don't think they used the word wizard, sorcerer. What did they use? The Ancients. So you have the group called the Ancients, and they're supposed to, like, you know, be the overseers over everything. And they get mad that the humans are trying to kill the dragons, so they basically curse all of those that were involved and their bloodline. So a lot of the kingdoms have been cursed and their heirs. And so now, fast forward many, many years later, we have our main girl whose name went out of my brain. He's Liam. Oh, did we have 2 Liams in this video? That's funny. Elise. Her name is Elise. And so her curse is that she's incredibly fragile. Like, she bruises, her bones break. Like, she's very fragile. So then a tournament has to start for the crown prince of one of them's land. And because she's a princess, she gets sent there even though she's incredibly fragile. And yep, that's it. It kind of reminded me of The Melanie Sellier 12 Dancing Princesses retelling. It reminded me of that one quite a bit. Overall, I liked it. If I could, I'd probably give it like a 3.75. I have heard the rest of the series is a little more kissy than I prefer compared to this book, and this book was like a bit kissier than I prefer, so the fact that I've heard the other ones are kissier than this one, I feel like that might be a little too much for me. So I'm not sure if I'll continue on or not. Like, I'm curious because I think the concept is very interesting with the whole, like, some of the kingdoms are cursed, some are not kind of that element. I don't know, it is a Cinderella retelling next, so I might. I'm not sure though. This also though had like Christian faith content that I really wasn't quite sure about. It had like implications of Christianity in a way that there were like a handful of mentions of the Creator, but then there was also mentions of people praying to the ancients. So like I'm not quite sure about that. Not quite sure about that. And then one of the ancients though is like super bitter and just stressful of all the humans because of past events. And so he just kind of wants to smite them all. So it's like, it's not really giving like guardian angel vibes. Not quite sure what's going on there. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it was supposed to be an allegory or not. I'm not sure. It had its cliche moments, but it's a fairy tale retelling. 3.5 stars. I don't know what else to say next. Then we have Pippa of Lorimor, which is by Sherry L. Tapscott. This is not a fairy tale retelling, but it feels like one. It is very much the setting of one, but no fairy tale. Like, no actual fairy tale. It was very classic YA, but it was in a fun way, in my opinion. The main girl is Pippa, and she is the princess, and she has begged her father, the king, to do a tournament for her hand. So here we go with another tournament. But she is mischievous. Like, mischievous, going to turn her parents gray before their time. Mischievous kind of way. And that's kind of 50-50 for me. Sometimes I like that. Sometimes I just want to smack her with the shoe. And that was about right for Pippa. I went back and forth. Mostly, though, I liked her. She just reminded me of kind of that very typical YA main character that doesn't really think things through, but kind of always sticks the landing. That's the case with Pippa. And so she's sneaking off to go hang out with this one guy that she really likes from the tournament, one of the princes, because the one her family is pushing her towards, we don't like him. He's bad. She doesn't like him. We don't like him. He's bad news. And so she really is liking this one other guy. Here's the thing, though, with sweet Pippa. Okay, her father, she has an enchanted purity ring. So, that was, in all my books, I've never seen that before. That was interesting. That was interesting. And so, that was, so many different parts of that I was just like, huh. Because, here's the thing, there is also the archer of their, I don't know. I can't think of like what he was the archer, but like he taught her archery and like her brother's archery, and like everyone knows him. He's just like he's raised with them kind of thing, but his status is lower. Hello, male interest, really. The actual love interest, male lead. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm so tongue-tied, y'all. I still got so many books to talk about, and I'm already exhausted. So we have him, but she's interested in this one prince guy because he seems like a decent guy, and he's going to be what book 2's about, his story, so I think I'll probably end up reading that one just to see him get his happy ending, because things don't go as Pippa plans in this book. And I think for me, though, with that enchanted purity ring, it did bring in a little bit more of her being willing to break the rules and see how far she can go, because like she really wanted to kiss a guy, and the guy is being very honorable that no, we can't because of your purity ring, and she's, you know, willing to risk it all kind of thing on that to test the ring and see if it really will tarnish kind of thing. So there was a little bit much on that, but that just felt very YA to me. I don't know why. It felt very YA to me. I did think it was very interesting though that we had the tournament for her hand at the first book, because I've read a lot of fairy tale retellings where it is the first book of the series is a tournament for the crown prince's hand and we meet all the girls, but this was the reverse of that, and I liked that difference. It's going to stand out to me. So there is that. There was one comment by someone that I'm not quite sure if that was supposed to be a sexual innuendo or not. I don't think it was, because it felt out of place for the book. but I'm not sure. So like that, I'm like, I feel a little off about that. Overall, not terrible. 3.5 stars, right around that. I'm not really quite sure. I don't think I'll buy a physical copy. I will probably read book 2 and see if I'll continue from there. Can I stand up and talk to y'all for a minute? Like, I'm exhausted. Okay, next book. Poppy's Peril. Look how cute. It could fit in my pocket. Just about. There we go. Alright, so Poppy's Peril by Alison Tebow. Book 2, well no, book 1 is The Reluctant Godfather. Book 2 is A Royal Masquerade. Excellent, so fun, very quirky, cozy, cute, fantasy, fairy tale retellings. They are short, little, on Kindle Unlimited. This is technically book 3, and the author suggests you read it after these two, and I agree. The events, though, are in between The Reluctant Godfather and A Noble Masquerade, but you should read it after A Noble Masquerade, okay? Okay, yes, very good, very good. We meet Poppy, who we met in the prior book, and it's kind of like what happened to her to get her into that position, and that's all I'm going to say. Really cute, really sweet. I finally will get to read the novella collection, short story collection bind up now in April, and I'm very excited about that. Okay, and then we have 2 books in the Sinclair's mystery series, The Mystery of the Painted Dragon and The Midnight Peacock, both by Catherine Woodfine. Book 1 and 2, I talked about 1 in January, I think, and 2 in February. I went ahead and read both of these. I was going to stretch them out, but I've been listening to the audiobooks, and they have been very fun, I have to say. The narrator has just done really well, though, with all of the different accents and the different characters, and it's just been really fun. They are historical, like right at like 1910-ish. Like this one is when they're welcoming 1910 or 1911. And so book 3, though, Painted Dragon, this is really where like it gets pumped up, in my opinion, in the series, because it's, I want to say, but it's spoilers, so I can't say. I'm so sorry. But if you really like historical middle grade mysteries or 1 or 2 of any of those, I would suggest checking out this series. There is murder, though. So, like, as a heads up for that, it is middle grade, but there's murder, and I don't love that. I will admit I don't love that. But this has been a really fun series, very delightful. As a note, I am reading the American editions, though. The British editions are what the audiobook follows, and there are some differences, and there's a little bit of language. So, like, just as a heads up for that. But the books, though, themselves have been really fun. The stories have been very delightful. It follows Lil and Sophie, and they work at the Sinclair's department store, and they end up getting involved in different mysteries, and it's been so much fun. So much fun. I've really been enjoying the series. So, on that note, I bought the spin-off series and binged them within a week because I needed answers. So it is the Taylor and Rose Secret Agents series, and there's 4 books plus a companion book, or I don't think it's a novella. I think it's a bit over 200 pages. It is currently not physical, like it's only as an ebook here in the States. It will be released as a physical book in November here in the States. It's already released in the UK because the author is British, and so they're published first in the UK. I haven't read that one yet. That I will be getting to within the next few days. But I read the main 4 books, and that one technically you could read it in between. But I'm going to read it at the end because it had nothing really to do with what the main cases were in this series. So, how can I explain the series? Again, I did listen to the audiobooks, and then just as a heads up, the 4th book does have 1 curse word. The D word, I guess, a form of the D word, let's put it that way. I have it in my review just as a heads up for parents. The rest of the series is very clean. This one deals a lot more, the spin-off series deals a lot more with what we found out about Sophie's parents and what was going on there. In that series, this follows through. So you definitely have to read the other series first. But so we have Peril in Paris. I gave this one 4 stars. There's Peril in Paris. And Undercover, it doesn't have the same charm as the original series, but it is still really good, and I feel like if you really enjoy the other series, you're going to want to pick up this series as well. Book 2 is Spies in St. Petersburg. If I had to rank the series, I would say this one was my favorite out of this series. I think. I liked this one a lot. Villains in Venice. Okay, well, hang on. Let me back up a second. Book number 2 ended on a terrible cliffhanger. Heads up for that. Then I had to read Villains in Venice. Ends in a worse cliffhanger. Horrible cliffhanger. So, of course, I had to quickly start Nightfall in New York, which was book 4, and I wanted to savor this series. I wanted to just, like, enjoy it. I could not because of those cliffhangers. Those were mean. They were mean. I was traumatized. I could not read the books fast enough to get the answers I needed. Again, it's not got the charm like the original series, but if you enjoyed the original series, I would suggest checking them out. They are fun. They are very fun. I love a good middle grade, but when you add in like a historical middle grade, it's been fun. I would say that if you really like the Mysterious Benedict Society and you're okay with some murder elements, this series and the original series would definitely be up your alley. I also would compare it a little bit to the Myrtle Hardcastle series that I read and talked about last year. They had similar vibes. I would say like this series and the original series. This series is kind of like in between the Mysterious Benedict Society and the Myrtle Hardcastle series. Obviously the Mysterious Benedict Society does not have murder. These two series do, but at least in this series it's not in every book. Like with Myrtle, it's in every book. So I have to say, really enjoyed this series. This was really fun. There was such a charm to it. I will say I don't know like if the author's going to continue. It sounds like it's done. It sounds like it's done, and I'm okay with that. I think that's okay, but I did really like these characters. It is left open-ended enough where she could do another spin-off series if she so chose to do so. But I liked it. You know, this was very fun. I feel like I'll be talking and thinking about this series for a while because it just kind of consumed me for a good bit. A good bit, really. It was very fun, very enjoyable. The audiobooks were really good too. Okay, I have 2 more books and they're part of the same multi-authored series. So we have Ties of Starlight by Celeste Baxendale. Okay, so for me this cover personally isn't it. This isn't how I picture them. But I did tab my copy a bit because I like this one. So let's talk about this one. Now, I feel like I need to give a disclaimer though. So magic content in this fantasy book as a heads up, but they're also, it's a spoiler. So like if you want absolutely no spoiler, go ahead and skip ahead. I'm just going to say like one word that is a spoiler, but it's an important part of this book. So skip ahead like 20 seconds, maybe 10 seconds. Reincarnation. Yes, so it does have to do with that. So I am used to that topic with the different Korean fantasy comics I've read. I've become it reminded me of that, and I've become familiar with how that works in a fantasy book. But like this was outside of my comfort zone, not only because of that, but also because the main guy is like the young elf king. See his pointed ears, he's an elf king, I don't know. And then the main girl is half elf, half human. There's a big comet that is tied to their people's magic, and there has to be like a special ceremony between a couple. That happens every 250 years. So our main girl has been chosen to be that girl, much to his dismay because he likes her, but she thinks he hates, but she thinks he hates her. The communication wasn't there, but he was very, it's always been you for her. And she is pretty sure he hates her and has been tormenting and teasing her ever since they've known each other. And so, bless her heart, she's been through it. She has been through it. And I'm not going to say more because I already said the spoiler, but it has to do with that spoiler. I did think it was really cool that the physical copy, each chapter started with this fun little thing. And I actually really liked the white font. So weird, but I actually really liked it. That's how I've been reading my Kindle, is with the black background white font. And I never liked that on my phone, but I've been doing it on my Kindle, and so I really like that. But anyway, this was really outside of my comfort zone because of that fantasy element. But man, when I tell y'all, I got sucked into this book. I was fully invested, solid 4 stars. I was just so intrigued by what was going to happen because things happen. Can I say it? Can I say it? Okay, I can't say it. Okay, so basically, she's supposed to be a part of this power couple, if you will, that's going to help them get all their strength and powers back from the stars because they are a special type of elves. elves? Yeah, elves that get their powers from the stars. And so it's been weakening. Things haven't been going well. They're fixing to be attacked if they don't get something to change here. And so her groom runs away. Like the coward he is, he runs away. And so our main guy, Mr. King, young prince boy who well, he's not a prince. Mr. Young King boy, that doesn't have the same ring to it. He, though, has to step in and marry her. She's not happy about that. He has a lot of walls to break down because she's holding a lot of secrets. There you go. Honestly, I liked it. I am stunned I liked this one so much because it was so outside of my comfort zone. There is, though, that fantasy content, though. So, like, I really would only recommend this if, like, you really, really like fantasy and you're okay with that kind of content. It's right on the line for me, personally. It's not going to be one I'm going to talk about much, but it really did suck me into the story, and I was just, like, jaw dropped at a few moments because of different reveals and things that were happening. And also, he just had it so bad for her, and it was so sweet. And I was so glad we got his POV. Because we don't always get the couple's POV in fantasy books, I'm learning, and I was really glad we had his POV. I feel like if you are a big, big fantasy girly, this would be right up your alley. But, like, heads up for the magic stuff. And it also, also, let me just note once more. This author wrote the Wicked Prince, not a Wicked Prince, the Wicked Prince. And that was also a marriage of convenience, arranged marriage, forced marriage, whatever name you want to use. This was also, and both of them have been squeaky clean. Stunning. Can I just say that? Because, like, that's a trope I stay away from because it's usually got a lot of suggestions, and I don't really want to read that, thank you very much. So the fact that both of these have been so clean, I am very interested in checking out her other books. But this one really surprised me. I really enjoyed this one, even though it was so outside of my comfort zone with, like, the whole elf thing. Not really a fan of that, usually. And, like, the whole elf thing, half elf, half human. I was like, I don't know about that. But I read it anyway, and wow. It was a solid, good fantasy book, in my opinion. And then, our last book. I'm so excited. 4.5 stars. I've had 2 4.5 stars in this video. This is great. Ties of Legacy. Look how big this is. Which, by the way, Ties of Starlight, I feel like that one should have been thicker. It felt thicker. It felt like a movie. It was great. Ties of Legacy, though, by Melanie Sellier. So, y'all have been hearing me talk a lot about Legacy of Roses. So pretty. Love that cover. This is technically book 1.5 in the series, and we meet Avery, the main girl in this, in that book. This series is just so fun, and I'm enjoying it so much because it's not the typical fairy tale retelling, because you have this kingdom, this continent, that's broken up into 6 kingdoms. That's the proper way to say it, I think. And each kingdom has a origin story that is a fairy tale. So like in Legacy of Roses, it was Beauty and the Beast. So you have the echoes or the remains of the curse or that enchantment from that original story that is still kind of lingering throughout the land. And it's going to cause different things. So like in that one, the only flowers that grow in that kingdom are roses. And then if you have like a beast in the forest, the legacy is what this is called, is going to protect that beast because of Beauty and the Beast. And so this is set in the world. I would definitely suggest reading that one first, then picking up this one. I feel like it explains it more. It's just been really fun. This one, though, we follow Avery, and she is not tied to a kingdom like most people, and neither is our main guy, because our main guy is Elliot, and his mother took matters into her own hands, and he ended up being tied, not to a kingdom like most people, but tied to a candelabra. And that is okay if the candelabra is by him, but when that candelabra is stolen, and he is near death because his lifeline is tied to that candelabra, he's got to track it down. It gets tracked down, it gets melted down into an item that Avery has bought. And so now they are kind of stuck together eventually. And it was just so much fun. I really like road trip storylines in a way, even though I don't like road trips myself. But when it has a fantasy road trip style, that's fun. I'm liking that. It was fun. I liked this one a lot. I gave it 4.5 stars. I was so looking forward to this one after reading the first book in the series. And yeah, it was really fun to get this bonus book. I cannot wait for the second book in the series to release, which is coming out in May. But yes, this was a smashing success in my opinion. Okay, we are done Somebody put a fork in me. I'm done. We talked about 30 books. How long was this video? My camera battery's fixing to die. We can't even ponder that. I have talked y'all's ear off. But you know, there were some good books in this video. I also had mediocre ones. But not a bad reading month, really. I mean, 11 books off of my physical TBR. Plenty of books from my Kindle and Kindle Unlimited subscription. And then 2 4.5 stars. 2 anticipated releases by 2 favorite authors. Fun. And then a middle grade series that I really enjoyed as well. That's just fun. I think it was overall pretty good. Yes, I had some duds. But you know, I'll take it if I can have some more 4.5s or even 5s coming up. I'll take it. I need a nap now after filming this video and talking about all these books. My social battery's just gone floop down. I have no more social battery in me. But that is it for this video. I know, you're finally like, yay, thanks, Lindsay, I can go back to my normal life schedule. There was a lot of good books. I'd love to know if you've read any of these, if you want to read any of them. I feel like maybe I sold y'all on some books. If you have not checked out Erynn Mangum, definitely check out her new book. It was really good. Super strong faith content. And then Ties of Legacy was just really fun because of the first book of the series as well, so definitely read those in order. The Sinclair mysteries and then the spin-off series have been enjoyable. You know, overall, a pretty good reading month. Let me grab our stack. I actually didn't do that. Okay, I'm gonna remove the 2 I'm not keeping. Here we go. Here we are. Our stack of books. Look at that stack. Yay! We did it, y'all. Good job. Now I get to put these books where they go. But super exciting. We knocked off more books off of my physical TBR, off of my actual TBR. Pretty good month when we say. So I would love to know what books you read in March. You don't have to let me know all of them, but let me know if you've read any really good ones. And I think that's it for this video. I think we're done. Now we need to all just go take a nap, or I need to go take a nap. I'm exhausted. That was a lot of books to talk about. I may have to rethink doing this maybe twice a month instead of just once a month, because this was a long video. I think I've been filming for almost 2 hours. That's going to be a fun video to edit. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe you found some new books to add to your TBR. If so, I'd love to know which ones. And I will see y'all next time with a video that will not be, hopefully, as long as this video. Hopefully. But I am Lindsay from the blog Books for Christian Girls at blogspot.com, where there is a new review every Wednesday and Friday. I try to post a new video on this channel every Friday as well. I am also on Instagram under Book Reviews by Lindsay and Books for Christian Girls. Books for Christian Girls is a little more professional, just talking about Christian fiction. And then Book Reviews by Lindsay is kind of like my personal bookstagram, if you will, where I talk about clean fiction and Christian fiction and just update y'all on what I'm reading and like little monthly graphs and everything like that. It's been fun. It's more of my personal one. BFCG is way more professional with just like BFCG stuff, but it's been fun to do both of them. And then I am also on Goodreads, TikTok, Facebook. We have a newsletter and all the many places on social media to talk about books here, there, and everywhere. So I hope you have an absolutely lovely rest of your day, and I will see y'all next time. Bye!